No, it was written to criticize capitalism. Welcome back to the Kuhner Report, Hour 3, 8:05, here on the great WRKO, and now on 93.7 HD2, 617-266-6868 is the number. You can text us at 680-680. So, what has been really the theme of today's show? I try to have a thematic show as much as possible. The lies, the obvious, almost childish, adolescent lies emanating from the White House and from this regime in Washington, from the Obama regime. So, you now have Jay Carney on an email talking about Benghazi and how to cover up Benghazi, who then tells reporters yesterday the email was not about Benghazi, even though the whole email was about Benghazi. Well, check this one now. As you know, for the last 6 years, the economy under Obama's stewardship has been abysmal. Economic growth has been low. Deficits have been skyrocketing. We are now the most indebted country in the history of the world. Our health care is in shambles. Over 92 million Americans are now out of the labor force. 23 million are unemployed or underemployed. Check the numbers when George Bush left office in January 2009. How many people were unemployed or underemployed? 23 million. How many are unemployed or underemployed today? 23 million. We are stuck. We are now in a quagmire. The economy is now stagnant. And the latest job numbers are stunning. Obamanomics is now conclusively been shown to be an absolute disaster and failure. And so according, not to Jeff Kuhner's numbers, not to the Heritage Foundation's numbers, but according to a new Commerce Department report, from January to March, for the first quarter of 2014, the U.S. economy slowed. Economic growth slowed. I want you to think about this. To 0.1%. 0.1%. 0.0 is a complete standstill. So, at least it's not negative. At least the economy's not shrinking. I guess we should be grateful for that. 0.1%. Our economy has to be booming at 3 to 4% to actually be creating meaningful jobs, meaning $200,000, $250,000 a month. I don't want to turn this into the Wall Street Journal, but essentially, if you're not growing higher than 3%, you're not doing well economically. Forget 2%, forget 1%, forget half of 1%. We're now down to 0.1%. And my friends, the reason is obvious. It's as plain as day if anybody will just open their eyes. Obamacare is a hammer on the economy. One of its key provisions is that if you work more than 30 hours a week, an employer must provide somebody health care coverage. So what's happening? People are now being forced to work 29 hours a week or less. It's why we're creating a massive part-time economy, a part-time labor force. People aren't hiring. Health costs are going through the roof. Mandates are killing jobs, entrepreneurs, and businesses. We have the highest tax rate in the Western world. You now have company after company literally shipping their headquarters overseas. They're going to Hong Kong. The communist Chinese have much lower tax rates. They're going to London. They're going to Europe. They're going to Canada. Toronto is booming. Now, I want all of you to think about this, okay? In 2000, which is pretty much, I had been in the United States for many years, just so that you know my biography. I was doing my doctoral program at Ohio University. My wife said, please, let's get married, Jeff. We've been apart too long. I wanted to finish my PhD before we got married, but forget it. I went back. We got married. I began teaching at McGill. So then I was back at McGill, Harvard of the North. In 2000, one of the major reasons why I left to the United States was not only the system of socialized medicine. To be honest with you, the Canadian standard of living was dropping like a stone. Canadians were overtaxed, overregulated. The economy was anemic. It was difficult to get a job, and if you had a job, it was difficult to get ahead. The Canadian middle class was considerably poorer than the American middle class. And I know because I was 98 or 99. I treated my wife and my mother-in-law to a wonderful vacation. And we went to the Caribbean. It was a cruise. First cruise she had ever been on. She loved it. But many people on the cruise were Americans. And my wife and my mother-in-law noticed immediately. She said, Jeff, these Americans are spending money like there's no tomorrow. With our Canadian dollar. And I had a pretty decent job at McGill. And my mother-in-law, she wasn't poor, let's put it that way. And they're going out to dinner. They're buying paintings. They're going shopping. They're buying purses. They're buying clothes. They're spending. What was difficult for us to afford, and these were average middle class Americans. Statistically, in 2000, Canada's middle class was significantly poorer than America's middle class. 14 years later, 14 years. Not 50, not 100, 14. According to the New York Times, Canada's middle class is now wealthier than that of America's. They earn more. They keep more of their money. They have more assets. They're wealthier. They're richer. The middle class is getting hammered. These deficits, these debts, this printing of money, the destruction of the U.S. dollar, these tax increases upon tax increases, this wasteful spending, this crushing, burdensome healthcare mandate is slowly breaking the back of the middle class. And as our economy sputters, as our middle class is systematically being dismantled, as we are being crushed under almost $18 trillion in debt, by the end of this year, according to the Financial Times, and I've been saying this now for a year because I read the European press, this report is being deliberately suppressed in the New York Times, the Washington Post, the liberal media all across this country. We are no longer going to be the world's leading economic superpower. According to the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, in the Financial Times, China will now surpass us by the end of this year. America, the biggest, wealthiest, most prosperous economy in the world for the last 100 years, is now going to be eclipsed by communist China. Their military is surging. Their economy is booming. Their growth is between 15 to 24%. We're stuck at 0.1%. The communist Chinese don't run deficits. The communist Chinese do not have nationalized health care. The communists. Say, why would you want to bankrupt your economy with national health care? The communists have much lower taxes than we do. The communists have less regulation than we do. The communists are open for business, even though we're not open for business. And in the face of this economic decline and disaster, 0.1% is an embarrassment. 0.1%, if this was Bush or Reagan or any other American president, they would be calling for his head on a pike. The dear leader, the Obama regime, says it's not the fault of Obamacare. It's not the fault of these crushing tax increases. It's not the fault of all of this wasteful government spending, printing money, the crushing debt. No, 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 no. You know why we're at 0.1%? God is my witness. The weather. I swear, no, it's the weather. Well, we had a very severe winter. It was very cold. There was a lot of snow. And I was telling Cooksey today driving in, I said, there's a lot of rain there. When it rains, people don't want to go shopping. And because people don't want to go shopping, the economy's slowing down. It's not the dear leader's fault. It's the weather. It's raining. Today's a bad day for the economy because it's raining. And the winter was very bad because it was snowing and it was cold. Notice every year he has an excuse. Tsunamis, tornadoes, earthquakes, anything that goes on overseas. Suddenly, something happens around the world, and that's why the economy, it's been 6 years now. We've been waiting for the economy to take off. It's always somebody else's fault. It's never his fault. We are now in a second Great Depression. It's now been 6 years. And they can cook the books however they want. Facts are facts are facts. Record numbers of Americans on food stamps, 47 million. Record numbers of people on welfare, nearly 50 million. Record numbers of people on long-term unemployment insurance, nearly 50 million. The only reason why the real unemployment, which is about 15, 16, 17%, the only reason why they're fudging the numbers is because people now have become so dependent upon government. Living on the dole has become a way of life. They've given up looking for work. So when they do their dinky little bogus surveys, they say, well, are you looking for work? No, I'm just on welfare. I've given up. Oh, okay, well, you're not employed then. We don't consider you unemployed. The American moment is now over. China will now be the world's #1 economy. He is hollowing out our military. China will now soon have the world's largest, most powerful military. They are buying up our foreign debt. We are now becoming an economic colony of China. I remember during the early years of Obama's presidency, when I covered him for the Washington Times. I'll never forget this. Then China's president came to Washington. We didn't go to Beijing. He bows in Beijing. But this time the president of China came to America. And while our president bowed in Beijing, the leader of China didn't shake the president's hand. Instead, when he came, it was like a conquering Roman emperor. There was the Marine Guard waiting for him. There we were waiting on him hand and foot. And he approached the president, and again the dear leader bowed to the president/emperor of China. Because now we are paying homage to our new colonial master. We are now paying homage to the world's rising superpower as this man destroys and dismantles us day after day after day. The Chinese are doing to us what we did to the British Empire. And helping them every step of the way is the dear leader. And now, with the economy literally at 0.1%, what's the best excuse he can come up with? It's like Jay Carney. It wasn't about Benghazi. It was the weather. No, dear leader, it wasn't the weather. It's you. 617-266-6868 is the number. Do you feel that we are now an economic power in decline? Do you feel that your standard of living has eroded under the dear leader? And now our economy is at 0.1%. Do you believe the weather is to blame? Or do you believe the dear leader and his policies are to blame? 617-266-6868, 821 on the great WRKO. Boston, all of your calls next. Welcome back to the Kuhner Report on the great WRKO. It's now 8:25. Sal, you're up next. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Jeff.
Hey, Sal.
Jeff, did you read the Boston Herald this morning?
I read quite a bit of it. Yeah, why, Sal?
What page did you find anything on Benghazi or the economy?
Oh, very good point. I was stunned. Nothing on Benghazi. Nothing on that dismal economic report. Nothing. Now, they do some of these scandals very well. That we were talking about it with Howie at 8:45. Another scandal, this time involving the transportation department. But guys, there's a world out there beyond Boston and New England. I mean, just call me crazy. 617-266-6868. Bill, you're up next. Go.
I'm on the radio.
Bill.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Bill.
Yeah, hi, Jeff. Jeff, if China is so good, why don't you go over there and live?
But why would I want to go to communist China?
Jeff, United States is so bad. Why don't you go over there and live?
Will you come with me, Bill?
You're talking about like China is a up and coming economy, and that they're so impressive, and the economy has been so bad since Obama's been in. Why don't you? If you're so impressed with China, why don't you go over there and live?
I don't like Chinese food.
You don't like Chinese food? You're a liar.
No, I'm telling you, I don't like Chinese food.
You ranted and raved about Chinese food in fact, you can't wait until Kuhner brings in this Tuesday spread from Kowloon.
No, I'm not even here then. I'm usually gone by 11 o'clock, Bill.
Yes, you are, Jeff. And the other thing, Jeff, you made a statement one time about...
Whoa, hold on. Let's stick to China. Hold on 1 second, Bill. Hold on. No, I like Greek food and Italian food, Bill. I'm not a Chinese food guy. But let me ask you this.
And you're a Croatian, right? You're a Croatian.
No, I'm from Canada. I'm of Croatian descent.
Yeah, you're a Croatian who migrated from Canada. And you come down here in the lower states and to spread your filth and racism. You go rant and rave like Macbeth, and you got a nerve to listen. Let me ask you one thing. You were so much you badmouthed that woman that was kicked off the youth or whatever they call it for kids. Yeah, listen.
Olga Rashay?
She didn't teach her.
Is she a relative of yours, Bill? Is she a friend of yours?
To cry every time she hears Obama. I mean, I think that's kind of cruelty. You must badmouth Obama so bad in your household that your kid Ashton cries.
No, Ashton cries. No, Ashton cries whenever he hears Obama because even a kid, a 4-year-old, can realize what a joke he is.
What the hell do you feed that boy if he is a boy?
What do you mean? Why are you insulting my son, Bill?
I'm insulting you. I'm not. Look, God loved the boy. God loved you.
Bill, if you want to come after me, come after me, but don't go after my kids, Bill. All right, come on now. Come on, let's try to keep it civil. Look, Bill, the World Bank is saying that China is going to surpass the U.S. The International Monetary Fund is saying that China is going to surpass the U.S. The Financial Times is reporting on this. Are we supposed to bury our heads in the sand because your man is in the White House? Is that what you're telling me? We have to lie to the American people just because your man is in the White House?
What?
We have to lie to the American people because your man is in the White House?
That's what you're doing.
Well, is the World Bank lying? Is the International Monetary Fund lying?
I tell you, Jeff Kuhner, to a public challenge in the Slant Theater located in Nuttown.
What do you want to duel or what? You want to shoot me or? What do you want? You want to duel? You want to shoot me or what?
If that's what it takes.
All right. Thank you for that call, Bill. 617-26. You see what I got to put up with? You see what I got to put up with? That's the best the libs can do. That's man of my education, a man of my learning. And this is what I have to do to make a living. 617-266-6868. Comrade John, how you are, comrade?
Well, after that, I don't know, a minute inside that man's head would send me over the cliff, Jeff. Two things. Of course, the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank are saying it because they've created it. They've created it with the dear leader, all right? Now, here's the thing, Jeff. We talk about what's going to happen. But really, you should spend at least one segment of talking about what to do to prepare for it. It's very important. You know, get out of the dollar. If you have old copper pennies when the dollar crashes, you're better off. You've got to go to hard metals. Seeds in this country. When this happens, this is all very real. People think, oh, it's never going to happen here. A seed will be worth more than a wheelbarrow full of money. All right? Now, Jeff, I got to change subjects for a second real quick because this came to me yesterday.
Sure.
Did you hear Mr. Pelletier talking to Howie yesterday?
No, I didn't. I missed it.
Oh, my God, it was brutal. But one thing he said was he found out that the minute a child is a ward of the state, they can do any experiment on that kid they want, medically, psychologically, any experiment they want without anyone's permission. Where are those 136 missing kids, Jeff? Kids just don't go missing. If you have two kids in your house and you show up with one more kid, your neighbors are going to be like, where'd you get that one? So let's look into this. Where are the 136 children?
Thank you for that call, comrade. Look, you're seeing now the true face of liberalism. It's communism on the cheap. Softer, a little slower, but the same deadly effect. 617-266-6868. Hey, if we're going to have it, at least let's have the real thing like in China. 617-266-6868. Is America's economic decline, in your view, now permanent? Who do you blame? The weather or the dear leader? All of your calls next. Welcome back to the Kuhner Report. 8:39 now on the great WRKO. So, as our economy continues to tank and China's continues to surge, as basically the communist Chinese have now adopted freewheeling capitalism, low taxes, no deficits, while we embrace socialism, high taxes, high deficits. Bill Maher, moron Maher. This is what happens when you have a moral degenerate and a pothead thinking now he's an economist. Bill Maher says, no. It wasn't capitalism that built the American middle class. It was socialism. Roll it, Brittany.
Basically, what this guy is saying is that under capitalism, income inequality is inevitable. And that when we had a thriving middle class after the war, after World War II in the 50s and the 60s, that was the aberration. And by the way, the reason why we had a thriving middle class then was because of socialism. Because the tax rates on the rich then were 70 to 90%. And the house I grew up in was under the GI Bill. Right. It's because my parents were veterans and they could... That's socialism. That's all socialism. Socialism built the middle class in America. Deal with that, conservative.
You need to snort some more cocaine off the rear end of prostitutes, Bill. That's all you're good for. 617-266-6868. That, honestly, that is so historically and economically illiterate. It's any basic textbook will tell you that the 1950s that built the great American middle class was one of the least statist, most free market ever in American history. Who do you think built all those homes, genius? Who do you think hired all those workers, genius? Who do you think built all those cars, genius? It was the private sector. Yes, there was some government intervention. Yes, the GI Bill. Socialism means the government control of the economy. There was less government control in the 1950s. There was no Great Society, no Medicare, no Medicaid, no Environmental Protection Agency, no Obamacare. I could run down the whole list. And as for his little, they got this from Paul Krugman. that the rich paid 70 to 90%. Yes, in theory. In reality, you put in all the exemptions that they had, all the loopholes that they had, they're paying less than 20% in taxes. Their effective tax rate was infinitely lower than the tax rate of today. That's why we were a magnet for businesses and capital and job creators from all over the world. But you see, when you're high all the time, and you're stoned all the time, and you're being cocktail waitresses, listen, he's got time for one Paul Krugman column, and that's it. Bill, you're up next. Thanks for holding. You're on WRKO. Go.
It's morning in America, Jeff. How we doing?
All right, Bill, how is 0.1% morning again? Well, what do you care because you don't have a job? But let that go. How is that morning again in America?
Okay, Jeff, first of all, it's 1 quarter. That's number one, okay? It's one.
It's been 6 years, Bill.
Number two, Jeff. No, sir, that's not true, Jeff.
It's been 6 years. We've been waiting for 6 years for this economy to recover.
The economy has been growing, if you haven't checked.
Oh, yeah, I can see. It's phenomenal.
Numbers, Jeff. You want them to go by the numbers of today. Look at the numbers for the last year. They have been pretty good, Jeff.
Oh, phenomenal.
They've been at like 3%. That's not too bad.
Oh, that's phenomenal, Bill. First of all, it hasn't been 3%. It's about 2.2%. But let that go. Bill, look, I understand. No, I'm being serious, Bill. Honestly, when you're on welfare with EBT cards, food stamps, that's what you are.
You have no idea if I am or not.
No, you are. Bill, let's be honest. You don't work for a living. Everybody knows it. Come on now. Don't be defensive. It's okay. Bill, you should be proud to be a taker. Those are your people. Now, yes, when you're on welfare, the economy's always good for you. I understand that. But for those of us that are in the job market or looking for jobs, the makers, the producers, the tax generators, it's been a horrible economy.
Jeff, the unemployment rate is at 6.7%. The stock market has doubled from 8,000 to 16,000. Interest rates for mortgage are under 5%. This would be, if Romney had won, this would have been the Romney recovery.
All right, let's take it one by one. As you know, and pretty much the Wall Street Journal has confirmed this, the Financial Times has confirmed this, the Economist has confirmed this, most economists have confirmed this. The reason why Wall Street is doing so well is because of the inflationary policies of the Federal Reserve. So the more inflation you have, hold on, the more inflation you have, the more it benefits Wall Street. Number one. Number two, I thought it was you left-wingers that hated the 1%. I thought it was you left-wingers that said we shouldn't have an economy for Wall Street, but for Main Street. That's not point number two. Point number three, hold on, Bill. Easy. Point number three. You could have 0% unemployment. I go back to this fact, and it's incontrovertible. The way they gather economic unemployment statistics is they ask you if you're looking for work. Most people have given up looking for work. We have 23 million unemployed or underemployed. We have 93 million out of the workforce. This is a record high. We have, hold on, whoa, hold on. I'll give you about just 10 more seconds. Record numbers on food stamps. Record numbers on welfare. So under communism, Bill, there was 0% unemployment. Who cares?
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. Well, the other thing you brought up was the Chinese.
Whoa. What about my points? Whoa. Forget the Chinese.
Your point's on that unemployment is at 6.7%.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right. So basically, they fudged the numbers, but it's okay that they fudged the numbers.
They didn't fudge the numbers. When Obama took over, it was over 10%. So they've come down, haven't they?
Bill, I'm going to say this to you. Look, Bill. Look. I know on welfare it's always good times, but I'm trying to explain this to you. The way they get statistics is if you've given up looking for work, you're not counted as unemployed. So the long-term unemployed, underemployed are at record highs. The real unemployment rate isn't 6.7%, genius. As any major economist will tell you, it's 15, 16, 17%. That's a Great Depression level. But you don't care because you're on welfare. Thank you for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. You see, when they don't have the facts, they have to make up the facts. And now, we're joined by Boston's talk radio legend, the one and only, the great Howie Carr. It's Thursdays. It's Coffee with Howie, brought to us by Perfect Smiles. Howie, how are you, my friend?
Very good. The unemployment rate wasn't 10% when George Bush was president. Remember when it was 5% and they called it a jobless recovery? Now it's 6.7% and it's the new normal.
It's a miracle now.
Yeah, and as Rick Santelli said yesterday, they're going to blame the weather again.
Howie, what do you make of this fact that they blame the weather on 0.1% economic growth?
All the economists on the networks have turned into weathermen. You know, it's all about the weather. And you know, the other thing too is, until Obama became president, I never heard economic bad news blamed on Easter. You know, Easter. What did the Easter Bunny have something to do with this? He was running around handing out pink slips along with his chocolate eggs. I don't know. It's ridiculous. Rick Santelli is right.
Howie, I got to ask you. I read your column today. As usual, dynamite stuff. So apparently now there is another potential ethics scandal involving Deval Patrick's administration.
Yeah, well, you know, I guess the big news is a lot of people didn't realize, and it's easy to forget, that there is something called an ethics commission here in the state of Massachusetts. It's about as active as the state House and Senate ethics committees. But they are going to refer this over there. They've been using they're going to use taxpayer money to fight this referendum question to repeal the automatic gas tax that's going to go into effect. Not until after the November election, so no one will see it when no one will have seen it when they're actually voting on it next November. I mean, it's just outrageous what they want to do here. Is you know, this is called taxation without representation. I mean, why do we have a legislature if they're not going to vote on taxes? And you should see. I'm going to post the memo. I've got the actual memo that they sent out. They were so proud of it last week. When I inquired about it, they just emailed it to me. But they say, well, if we lose the automatic gas tax increase, we're going to lose billions of dollars. Well, no. If they need the money, they can just vote on it. What they don't want to do is vote on the automatic tax increases. They want it to go into effect every January 1st based on inflation. So, you know, you go there on New Year's Eve and it's the gas price, which is going up, by the way. It's double what it was when George Bush was president. But hey, let's not let the facts get in the way of a good story. It's $3.73 on New Year's Eve, and then on New Year's Day it'll be $3.76. But it won't be big oil that has done it, or the federal government. It'll be Deval Patrick and the unions and the contractors. Oh, and you know who they're sending out these memos to? Who they're coordinating with? The very ethical Tim Murray, the former lieutenant governor, and who's now the head of the Worcester Chamber of Commerce, who had to resign in disgrace after he refused to release his cell phone records about who he was talking to when he was going 108 miles an hour in his pajamas at 5:20 in the morning in a state car. You know, this is another one of the guys who's going to be running the campaign to push through an automatic tax increase every New Year's Day. It's outrageous. And you know, the thing is too, Jeff, I said this in my column on Sunday, they're going to have millions upon millions of dollars for TV ads. I mean, you're not going to let your kids even watch TV in the run up to the election, because they're going to be these giant potholes and bridges falling down. It's going to look like a horror movie every time they go to an ad spot. You know, that's what they're going to say. If we don't get this money, they're going to be people dead in the streets. They're going to be potholes that will go down to China. Bridges will be falling on buses full of nuns. And you know, they're going to have millions of dollars, and the people that are trying to stop it, you know, they're going to be portrayed as the Koch brothers, and they're going to have about $32. It's just so typical of what's going to happen. And then, of course, suppose the thing passes. Suppose the referendum question passes. The last few times there've been anti-tax referenda passed, they've ignored it. You know, the voters, 15 years ago, passed a referendum question to cut the the state income tax back to 5%, which we were promised, when it was raised to 6.25% back in the late 80s, and they refused to implement the will of the people.
Howie, before I let you go, I got to get your take. Olga Rashay, Queen Olga, was finally forced to step down.
Yeah.
What do you make of it? What do you make of her replacement? Do you think this represents a real change at DCF?
Well, her replacement is from the Registry of Motor Vehicles. I mean, draw your... Have you been to a Registry of Motor Vehicles office lately? Michelle McPhee was there yesterday. She was texting us from the... She was going crazy. She was bouncing off the walls in Revere. Again, that's another thing I wrote about today. The Registry of Motor Vehicles has a budget of $60 million. They bring in $600 million to the state. And if you go to these offices, they're all brand new. They got like 10, 15 counters, but unlike a supermarket, when the lines start building up, there's 3-4 people immediately go into the empty lanes and start taking people. At the Registry of Motor Vehicles, there'll be like 15 counters and 4 people will be there. And everybody else is just kind of like drinking coffee and staring off into space and, doing nothing. It's just, no, I don't think there's going to be much change. No, I don't think so. And obviously Deval Patrick got PO'd at VB, my old producer, when he asked him the question, when he said everybody in the state except you and Polanowitz wanted this woman gone. And Deval's going, oh no, that's not true. You're wrong about that, VB. The guy has the thinnest skin of any politician I've seen in a long time. He can't take a punch. He's got a glass jaw.
Howie, what do you think if he does go for higher office? Do you think the deaths of these children, Jeremiah Oliver, Bailey Irish, Aliana Levin, do you think they're going to haunt him? Are they going to stain his record permanently?
Yeah, I think it's hard to like pin a state scandal on somebody running for national office, but when you have the whole group of scandals, think about if Chris Christie had presided over, just like take the compounding pharmacy, in Framingham, where they sent out poison steroids, with no state supervision. I mean, do you think that the New York Times would have run a bank with pictures of the 64 people who were dead? I think they would have, and Chris Christie gets pummeled for five orange cones, and Deval just gets a total pass. Annie Ducan, the people that were released from prison because of her perjury and her fake drug IDs, they've killed people too. You have these 3 kids at minimum, dead because of the DCF. I mean, this guy's got blood on his hands, and I know that sounds like it's an exaggeration, but he really does. I mean, his administration has been criminally inept in any number of ways. I don't think he's gonna run for president. I don't think he has a prayer. All it took to kill Mike Dukakis was one rape murder, Willie Horton, and this guy's got a lot more.
He's got 137 dead or missing children.
Right, and those. How do you? I mean, think about it. You go to a pharmacy and you buy a prescription. I mean, what could be more benign than that? Buying a prescription, not an opiate or anything, but just a drug, and then you take the drug and you die because the state couldn't be bothered to properly oversee the facility. I mean, what's wrong with this guy? I mean, and these crazy. One of the reasons we need this automatic gas tax is because he still wants to have these. He still has this dream of building high-speed rail to Fall River in New Bedford. I mean, it's like a nightmare. I mean, what is he thinking of? I mean, their own projections say that these 2 lines would lose $40 million a year. So I mean, just multiply that by 5, just for starters. I mean, why don't they just buy everyone who wants to come up from New Bedford to Fall River to commute to Boston? Just buy them all a limousine and give them 24/7 service. It would be cheaper than building these high-speed rails.
Howie, listen, I'm up against it. I gotta go. But before I let you go, buddy, are you doing any book signings, any events over the next couple days over the weekend?
Yes, I am. The next night of crime I have, that's when we go through all the Whitey Bulger stuff, the trial, all new material from last year. That's going to be at Busa Wines in Burlington on May 18th. It's a wine tasting / night of crime. What could be better than that on a nice Sunday afternoon? And if you want to buy tickets to that, it's in Burlington, central location for most of the listeners. Go to HowieCarrShow.com, HowieCarrShow.com. That's for a night of crime and a wine tasting at Busa Fine Wines.
We have been talking with Boston's talk radio legend, the great Howie Carr. As usual, Howie, great stuff. Thanks for coming on the Kuhner Report. Have a great weekend, buddy.
Thank you.
Take care, Howie. 617-266-6868 is the number. Don't touch that dial. Justina Pelletier. Will Deval Patrick and his DCF finally do the right thing? That discussion, debate, next. Welcome back to the Kuhner Report, Hour 4, 617-266-6868 is the number. 9:07 here on the great WRKO and now on 93.7 HD2. A lot of stuff I want to talk about this hour, but clearly, this thing with DCF, Deval's children and families, it's not over. You would think 137 dead or missing children. Just in the last couple weeks alone, a 5-year-old found stuffed in a suitcase. Little Irish Bailey, dead. 16-day-old child, dead. Aliana Levin, month-old child, dead. You think that DCF, they would be taking this seriously. Instead, according at least to the Boston Herald and several other media reports I've been reading, Olga Rashay, yes, she's been kicked off. She's been forced to step down. She's no longer the head of DCF. She's still collecting a salary. They're still paying her $137,000 a year. Now they're calling it a, quote, she's going to be a, quote, consultant, unquote. What do you consult her on? How to lose kids? How to kill 5-year-olds? No, really. Thank the Lord when I adopted my 2 kids. Thank the Lord she wasn't my caseworker. Thank you. I'm just crossing myself right now. Thank you, Lord. I mean, you want to strangle the baby? This is how you strangle the baby. If you want to beat the baby, this is how you beat the baby. I mean, it's just, are you kidding me? This woman, what do you want to consult her on? How to cover up? How to have neglected children? How not to pick up faxes off the floors that are lying there for 6 days? It's incredible. Now, Olga Rashay is still in the wings. They're still paying her $137,000 a year. Apparently, Deval, Mini-Me, wants to pay her $137K. Here is my theory on this. I don't have any hard evidence, but this smells and this stinks. She's got to have something on him. I don't know what it is, but she's got to have something on him because come hell or high water, she's got to get her $137K. It's like remove her from the position, yes. But if you're still making as much money as you were before you were the top of the head of DCF, so as the chief of DCF, you're making $137,000. After you're being pushed out of the head of DCF, you're still making $137,000. Hell, technically, she's got it better now than before. Instead of 3-day weekends, she may have 4 or 5-day weekends. Now she's a consultant. So instead of working 25 hours a week, maybe now she's working 10 hours a week for the same pay. And there's an issue that looms like a specter haunting this state. It's a dark cloud. And that is the growing national and international scandal. International scandal. That is Justina Pelletier. We are now becoming not just a national, but an international laughingstock. And what I cannot believe, and what is to me unconscionable, and I will personally hold Mini-Me responsible, and Duvall's Children and Families, his Department of Children and Families responsible, is if she should die, God forbid, under DCF's care and under his watch. She's still wasting away. She's still being held against her will in that facility in Framingham. She hasn't been released to her parents. She hasn't even been allowed to return to Connecticut to get care that she should be getting now, according to the courts themselves, at Tufts Medical Center. So not only do we have a 15-year-old teenager who has effectively been kidnapped by Duvall's Children and Families, being held against her will, forcibly separated from her parents, but now we're finding out, through the parents and other people, she is being denied sleep. She's undergoing forced sleep deprivation. Apparently now she's being mocked. She's not being given the care that she deserves. She is now under 100 pounds. She's emaciated. She's thinning. She's wasting away. She's got marks all over her body. Her legs are blown up like balloons. If something is not done and soon, that poor young girl is going to die. And let me tell you something else. And now, if you don't mind, I'm being a little personal. And I'm speaking now as a Christian and as a devout Catholic, which I know is almost verboten in the secular liberal United States. I understand that. What did I say? Liberalism is communism on the cheap. They hate Christianity and the Catholic Church exactly as much as the communists did, and they persecute it like the communists. So to even say you're a devout Catholic is very risky, very risky. She is, according to her parents, according to her family, and according to multiple media accounts, she is also, Justina is a devout Catholic. Her parents are a Catholic family. And I don't mean cultural Catholics or cafeteria Catholics where they go on Easter or Christmas. They are fairly regular churchgoers. Justina in particular is a very devout young girl. And I gotta tell you, from everything now I've read and understood about her, she really seems like the salt of the earth. She loves her daddy. She loves her mommy. She was happy. She was a precocious, lively, curious, typical American, wholesome teenager who loved to go to church. According now to her family, it has now been 14 months, over a year, that she has been held not only against her will, but she has not been allowed, against her explicit requests, repeated requests, to attend Mass, to see a priest, to be given communion, to go to confession. My God, they wouldn't even allow her to properly celebrate Easter, the most sacred day of the year for all Christians. There's something particularly sick and demonic about a radical, secular, thuggish regime that not only takes a woman, a girl, away from her parents and kidnaps her, and begins to basically treat her like a guinea pig, like a laboratory rat for Boston Children's Hospital, to prove that mitochondrial disease is simply a figment of her imagination. as she's wasting away and dying, denied the treatment that she deserves and needs. But my God, have you no fear of God? To take her away from her church? To deny her communion? To assault her very faith? To deny her to even celebrate Mass? I know to many people, we live in a secular age, and that's just the way it is. And that's fine, that's the age that we live in, and I make peace with that. But because our age is so secular, many people do not understand how important faith is to many people who are religious. For people who are religious, I don't want to turn this into Sunday, but people need to understand this. That communion is not just a piece of bread. It's not just some symbolic cultural act. As Catholics, it is the bread and body of Christ. When I asked my grandfather, who was tortured, persecuted, and beaten by the communists, 3 years in a communist concentration camp, I asked him point blank, what was the worst thing the communists ever did to you? Was it taking your home? Was it taking your land? Was it taking away your job, your livelihood? He said no. Those are material things. They're very important, don't get me wrong. But they're just material things. They come and go. You can't take them with you, he told me, when you go to the grave. He always used to tell me this. You know, life is not about accumulating wealth. He always told me this. Jeff, give with a warm hand and not a cold hand. Meaning, if you have money or you're successful in life, be generous, give to your children, give to your nephews and aunts, give to your parents, give to those around you. It's nice to give with a warm hand. But he said the one thing that stays with you forever, for infinity, for eternity, is your soul and your relationship with God. To a Christian, that is everything. To a Catholic, that is everything. My friends, my grandfather openly told me, it's when they denied us being able to go to church. It's when they forced us not to take communion. It's when they destroyed our ability to practice our faith. That was the greatest assault, the worst thing the communists ever did, because then they were trying to destroy our very soul. What's the difference between what's happening with this out-of-control liberal regime here in Massachusetts and what the communists did in Eastern Europe? They're not just killing Justina physically. They're trying to destroy her spiritually. My friends, is it time to free Justina Pelletier, Mini-Me, send her home, stop torturing that poor little girl? 617-266-6868 is the number. Stop torturing Justina. Free her now.
When you want to talk, you can do it here.
The hubris of these guys. It boggles the mind.
On AM 680, WRKO.
Welcome back to the Kuhner Report, 924 here on WRKO. Lines are loaded. Mags, you're up next. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff, and thank you very much, and amen to all that you said about Christianity and Catholicism and,
thank you, Mags.
You know, the Lord. And I pray for you every day because you have a very tough job.
Oh, thank you, Mags.
I want to tell you that I'm disgusted with Duval Patrick. I think he is a disgrace to the state of Massachusetts, and I hope and pray that the people of Massachusetts are waking up. What he has done to Justina Pelletier is beyond, I can't even imagine. A child in a divorce is allowed at 13 years old to decide which parent they want to live with. Why isn't this girl having the choice of who she wants to be with and where she wants to be? She's 15. Can you explain that to me, Jeff? Because I'm just curious.
Mags, you're right. You're completely right. But you're right. But it's even a deeper principle. Of course she should decide who she wants to be with. But in the end, it's their child. Primary sovereignty over children lies with the parents and the family, not the government. Now, unless the parents are obviously abusive and neglectful, and I don't mean they have another medical decision they go with instead of the one by Boston Children's. I mean, you beat them, you're raping them, you're molesting them, you're allowing them to do drugs, or you're feeding them cocaine or whatever. Then for the good of the child, because there's so much obvious neglect and abuse. But outside of those extreme cases, they want to send their kid to Tufts Medical Center. It's not your business to intervene. Never mind strip her away from the parents, take away custody, and then have her locked up for 14 months. And then on top of that, as she's dying and wasting away, to stand there and keep her locked up. Now, I'll tell you what I find incredible. God is my witness. Flashbank. Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, that mass murdering terrorist. 4 dead, over 260 wounded. Gets his Quran every day. Gets to pray every day. He wants to see an imam? No problem. He wants religiously Muslim kosher food? No problem. This girl who's done nothing to nobody. A communion? Ooh, oh, don't you take the host. Oh, don't take the Eucharist. This is sick. This is sick on so many levels. Andrea, you're up next. Thanks for holding. You're on WRKO. Go ahead.
Jeff, I just want to say I'm a nurse. If you're a 15-year-old with swollen legs and you have a medical condition, that's a very dire sign. She should be sent to Tufts and be reevaluated and put back on medications and then sent home with her parents. But the thing is I don't know what is Deval's thinking. If she dies, that's going to really look bad for him. Doesn't even think that way. But, it seems to me, Jeff, that the way he deals with problems is ignore them and hopefully they'll go away. And all they do is just get worse.
Andrea, if you want to understand him, I'll tell you what it is. He's so arrogant. He's so conceited. He's so consumed by power. You saw it over Olga Rashay. Literally, I agree with Howie. I think there was him and the Health and Human Services Secretary, John Polanovitz. They were the only two, I think, in the whole state that said she shouldn't step down. So why didn't he? Why did he wait until more babies showed up? I'll tell you why. Because I called for her resignation. Because the Boston Herald called for her resignation. Because his political enemies called for her resignation. And he is so spiteful, and he's so arrogant, and he's so stubborn, and he's so mean-spirited. He's so proud. The sin of pride. I'm not going to give Jeff Kuhner that victory. I'm not going to give Kuhner country, my political opponents, that victory. It's the same thing with Justina Pelletier. It's the exact same thing. You don't think behind the scenes Bob DeLeo was telling him, are you mad? Cut her loose. You don't think Senate President Therese Murray saying, wait, are you nuts? Cut her loose. She's going to die. Then you have a major scandal on your hands. And then Jeff Kuhner is going to dance on me again. That's the kind of man Mini-Me is. It's the mentality of a gangster. It's the exact same mentality of the dear leader. That's why, frankly, I call him Mini-Me. And just so that you know, he hates it when I call him Mini-Me. Because he's nothing more than a little miniature Obama. Bruce, you're up next. Thanks for holding. You're on the Kuhner Report. Shoot.
Well, Jeff, you really treaded on me this morning. Exactly what you said, what I was going to say about flashbang. A person that does what this person did and gets all the benefits and all whatever he wants, and this poor girl, all she wants to do is be with her family and get the proper care that she's supposed to get. I find it totally criminal, and it's basically her. What she's going through is what the whole American country is getting put under.
We are all Justina Pelletier. And I'm telling you, if she should die, under the watch of DCF, Deval Patrick should be charged with aiding and abetting murder. Welcome back to the Kuhner Report, 9:36 here on AM 680 WRKO. So, Flashbang gets a Quran, can see his imam whenever he wants, can pray to Mecca 5 times a day, 10 times a day, however many times a day. Literally, he has to have a Muslim appropriate diet whenever he's delivered food. But Justina Pelletier, no communion, can't go for Easter Mass, hasn't been able to go to church in, 14 months? That's okay, according to DCF. Because you see, in the People's Republic of Massachusetts, Islamist terrorists have more rights, terrorist criminals have more rights than innocent victims kidnapped by the state. 617-266-6868. Tell me that there isn't Christophobia. Tell me that there isn't widespread anti-Christian bigotry. Christians and increasingly Jews are now being targeted in mass and in America that would make our founding fathers roll in their graves. 617-266-6868. Oh, no. But we have to worry about the private conversations of an 80-year-old crackpot with his half-black, half-Mexican girlfriend. No, that's the big story today, my friends. That's what the low-information people, the low-information crowd is all obsessed with. Comrade John, how are you, comrade?
Not too good, Jeff, because, I live here, all right? 2 things. I just got off the phone with his office again, okay? Now, this is what you do. You're never going to get to talk to Deval. But I just called up and I said, it's time to suggest that the governor get off his rear end and free this poor girl. And then I asked him, because if we can't shame the governor, we can shame his workers, okay? What does it feel like to sell your soul to work for someone who's at least an accomplice to kidnapping and murder? And you know what, Jeff? He had to hang up. Now, here's the thing. Once again, we talk about it. Jeff, you got the bully puppet. I'm going to put up a page today on Facebook, all right? Let's do a march the next time Lou goes to visit her, and he said on Howie's show yesterday when he visits her, let's get as many people together there as we can. Let's bring women. Let's bring children. Let's march right into that building. Let's take that poor child, and let's form a posse around her, if you want to call it that, and march her right back to Connecticut. And what are they going to do, Jeff? They're not going to do a thing. So it's time we get off our rear ends. Let's put something together, and at least let's show up and say enough's enough. Because this is only the beginning, Jeff.
Comrade John, listen, I can't do that, and I'll tell you why. Because that would be condoning kidnapping. And I'm telling you, they would put me behind bars. That's exactly what they want me to do. They're looking for me to do something like this so they can arrest me, throw me in prison, and destroy my professional and personal career. And I'll tell you something else, and I wouldn't put it past them. Did you see what they wanted to do to Clive and Bundy? You see how they sent in 200 armed federal agents? And had those cowboys and ranchers not showed up, they would have slaughtered him and his entire family. You put a big crowd and demonstration in front of that Framingham facility, don't be surprised if you see 200, 300 feds barreling down and you got dead women and children everywhere. Because that's the kind of regime that we have in this state and we have in this country. So the way to get her free is through relentless public pressure, letting people know what's going on. And the next court hearing, I believe, is in May. And I got to tell you, if there's any semblance of the rule of law left in this country, the judge should rule that she has to go. Now, he wants her dead. Mini-Me wants her dead. No problem. Once she dies, then charges should be pressed against him, and he should be held responsible for the death and murder of that girl. 617-266-6868 is the number. Tom, you're up next. Thanks for holding, and welcome.
Jeff Kuhner, 680 RKO. That's red, white, and blue dynamite, baby.
Thank you so much, Tom. What's on your mind, buddy?
Thank you. God bless you. And in regards to Justina Pelletier, I think you and Levin talk about this all the time. This has to be regarded in the context of institutionalized corruption. Jeff, I think there's three things we need to look at. Of course, we need to pray every day for Justina because that's the most powerful thing we could do. Second of all, we need that court order for emergent relief. We need a judge, a good, solid judge with a conscience to free her by court order. And also, perhaps a legal fund we can start for them because these legal bills must be getting very, very high. I would give anything I could to help, and I'm sure many other people would also. Also, Jeff, the last thing is, how about the Pelletiers call in? Is she in Framingham, by the way?
Yeah, she's at a facility in Framingham. Tom, I'm a little reluctant to give the exact address, and I'll tell you why. Because if some people, and I don't blame them, but, you know, there's some hotheads, say, you know what, let me go there, I'm going to free her, then they're going to say Jeff Kuhner was responsible for, God forbid, if violence happens or if there's a kidnapping, and so I just don't want to go down that road.
But maybe they could call the Framingham police and call in a missing persons report, file her as kidnapped, and the parents or the lawyer could give the location and see if the Framingham police will do their job. Jeff, will simply do their job, show up, say she's been kidnapped. Jeff, in the United States, entering a medical facility is a free and voluntary act. If you want to leave, you can leave. A lot of times you leave against doctor's orders, but it's medical freedom. This is the red, white, and blue. This is America. This is an outrage, Jeff.
Oh, no, I know. I mean, Tom, listen, look, when I'm saying this, it's not for rhetorical effect. This is being covered in the Daily Mail. This story is being picked up by the European press. They can't believe it. The Europeans who look to us when it comes to matters of freedom and civil liberties and democracy, they're like, what's going on not only in America, but especially in Massachusetts? What the hell is going on in the People's Republic of Massachusetts? And I'll tell you what it is. It's soft communism. Liberalism is communism on the cheap. It's collectivism. The individual has no rights. The state trumps the parents and the family. It's the government's child. It's Obama's child. It's Mini-Me's child. That ain't your child. That ain't your child. That's Mini-Me's child. Elizabeth, you're up next. Thanks for holding, and welcome.
You're welcome. Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Love your show. All I want to say this morning is that my heart goes out to the Pelletiers, and you're going to see if anything happens to Justina, we're going to see who's squeaky. You call him Mini-Me, and we call him Squeaky. It's going to point the finger at. He's going to want to take the blame off of him and the department and place it somewhere else. Thank God it will not be on her family because she's in the custody of their hands. And that's all I would like to say. And one other thing, if anything should happen, he should be sued, the pence right off of him.
Elizabeth, before you go, Elizabeth, I want to ask you this is a very important question. Okay, this is your moment now. Because I've been wrestling with this now for about a good month. And my wife, who's basically a saint, she doesn't do civil disobedience. She's a typical, decent, hardworking, middle-class, educated woman. She pays her taxes. She plays by the rules. She raises her kids. But she's been telling me that I need to lead a major protest, whether it be up on Beacon Hill, in front of the governor's office, whatever, on behalf of Justina Pelletier. If Lou and Linda Pelletier come on this show and ask me on the show to lead a mass protest, I'm not going to storm Framingham. I'm not going to kidnap her. I'm not going to kick the doors down. But in front of Beacon Hill and call all of the media from this state and around the country. And I just want an honest answer, Elizabeth, because I want to know the kind of crowd I can get. Would you show up if I led that kind of a protest?
You better believe it. With my son and all.
Elizabeth,
and
thank you.
I will bring friends with me as well. I've been waiting for you to say that, Jeff. I've just been waiting.
Elizabeth,
You
thank
bet.
you. All right. Well, you know what, Elizabeth? Let me try to reach out to the Pelletiers. I'm going to have them on this show. I'm not going to do it if they don't want me to do it, because I want to do what's best for this girl. So if they tell me, Jeff, we're going to win in court, or our lawyers say don't do it, because look, what's going to happen is if I ratchet up the pressure, Mini-Me is going to be even more vindictive. And he controls the courts and the judges. So if the lawyers say, no, don't do it, Jeff, because out of spite, they're going to keep Justina against her will in Framingham, then I won't do it. I want to help the situation, not inflame the situation. But God is my witness. If Lou and Linda Pelletier tell me, please, Jeff, will you lead a major protest? I will lead this protest on Beacon Hill in front of the governor's office and the state legislature, and I will shame this regime into doing the right thing and letting her go. Mary Ann, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Oh, Mary Alice, forgive me, my bad. Mary Alice, you're up next. Thanks for holding. You're on RKO. Welcome.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, hi, Mary Alice. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. I've been following this case, and I contacted my state representative. It took her over 2 weeks to get back to me. I called her 4 times, left a message at her office, sent her emails. And finally she called me back, I think it was Tuesday. She refuses to sign any petitions that anybody puts forth in the House. She refuses to believe what's going on in the press. She absolutely, totally will not do anything against Deval Patrick. She said that we have to go by the court, do what the court says. I told her about Justina, as I'm Catholic. I told her about Justina not being able to go to church on Easter, and she said I was wrong, that Justina attended church.
That's not true.
Church on Saturday.
That's not true. In fact, her parents will confirm it. I'll get her parents on the show, and why would the parents lie? So her parents will confirm it. She has not been able to see a priest. She has not gone to church. She has not received communion. That is an absolute lie.
This woman would not even discuss it. She kept saying, we have to go by the courts, the courts, the courts, the courts.
Oh, I know, because she's a liberal goose-stepper. They control the courts.
Boston Children's Hospital, and I have personal experience with Boston Children's Hospital. Boston Children's Hospital is not God. They do make mistakes, okay? And I told her that, and she asked me if I had personal experience. I said yes, and I told her. Okay, I won't go into it here, but I told her. I said, they make mistakes. It didn't matter to her. She will not move her position. So I told her, I said, okay, fine, then I cannot in good conscience vote for you. She said, I have to follow my conscience. And I said, okay, fine, then I cannot vote for you when you run again. And her name is Carol Dykema, and she represents the Holliston-Hopkinton area.
Good. Thank you for that information. Just let's take names. Notice with these radical liberals, these secular progressives, God is not God. They say he doesn't exist. Jesus is not God. They say he's a phony. But Boston Children's, DCF, they are God. Welcome back to the Kuhner Report, 9:55 here on the great WRKO. William, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, Jeff. How you doing? Yeah, I just called my representative there at Joe Kennedy, the 4th District. This is the 3rd time that I've called them and asked them if they know what's going on with Justina Pelletier and the 138 kids. And this time the intern told me, no, we have no idea what's going on. Maybe you can tell me where I can find out. And I told them I named off like 5 different radio show hosts that have been airing this for months. I am so shocked that Joseph Kennedy is so detached from the people that he's supposed to represent. And, oh, my God, it's got me so angry that this is the 3rd time that I've called them, putting it in their ear. But I got news for them now, because now, this weekend, I'm going to go down and spend $500 for a bunch of cardboard. I'm going to go to the damn printing store, and I'm going to print up a bunch of facts, and I'm going to post them everywhere. Something's got to be done about these people.
William, William, trust me on this. I want the Pelletiers' approval. I want the father and the mother to give me the green light. If they give me the green light, I'm going to put a lot of people on the Boston Common. And everybody's going to know about it. And I'm going to call Fox and CNN, not just all the local stations. I'm going to call Fox, CNN. Trust me, after this protest, if the parents say yes, the country will know about it. And then I'm going to dare Mini-Me after that point, with the country knowing the full facts of the case. Either you commit complete professional suicide, or you let that girl go home. It's their child, not yours. Let her go. Arthur, you've been patiently holding. Thank you and welcome.
Thanks, Jeff. You can't shame people who don't have any shame.
That's, well, Arthur, sometimes you say something very simply but very powerfully.
And you know what? We've lost control of our government because these people are doing anything they want because nobody's doing anything about it, and it's a complete mirror of the regime in Washington.
Paul, you're up next. I got about a minute. Go, my friend.
Yeah, hi, Jeff. I've been holding for a while, but I got an important point to make here. The whole problem, or one of the biggest problems, I think, is the media. I think the best thing we can do is get millions of people like myself that oppose them and go against all the major TV stations that are airing this BS that ain't even true.
Paul, by you calling in this show, listening to this show, I'm telling you, you're flipping the bird to the mainstream media. I've got to go, my friends. You've been listening to Boston's Bulldozer, and together we're beating liberals one day at a time.